Santo Mondo è live. Okay, we are live. Good evening to everyone and welcome to our webinar on Belarus, where the regime is intensifying its brutal repression in these days. My name is Eleonora Mongelli and I'm the Vice President of the Italian Federation for Human Rights, which is hosting this event together with SUPOLCA, Belarusian Association in Italy. Thank you to all of those who are joining us today. Thank you also to Radio Radicale for live streaming this discussion. I'm very much honored to welcome our great panel, who brings together experts, testimonies, and human rights defenders. So I will start off by introducing our speakers. I'm very grateful to have with us today Valentin Stefanovic, Deputy Chair of the Human Rights Center Viasna. To have also Dianis Kuczynski, Senior Foreign Affairs Officer at the Office of Svetlana Tikhanovskaya. We also have Jacopo Jacoboni, journalist at La Stampa, Roberto Rampi, member of the Italian Senate and Secretary of the Italian delegation at the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. And we have, of course, Ekaterina Zyuzyuk, spokesperson of SUPOLCA, the Belarusian Association in Italy. So thank you so much and a warm welcome to you all. Before giving the floor to our speakers, I would like to open the event by introducing shortly the reason we are holding this event today and the topics we are going to discuss. First of all, we express our full solidarity and support to the people of Belarus, all those men and women who, with an incredible courage and tenacity, despite cold, fear, pandemic, arrest and tortures, are peacefully fighting for justice, freedom and democracy. All those activists, human rights defenders, lawyers, media workers and journalists like Katerina Andreeva and Daria Tulstova, who yesterday were sentenced to 2 years of prison for the crime of covering the protest. The regime led by Lukashenka is silencing every single voice of dissent and gagging the free speech and any kind of independent information. Over the past 6 months, since the fraudulent presidential election, whose result was also rejected by the European Union, we have reported human rights violations and abuses, including arbitrary arrest and torture targeting the opposition, as well as the death of innocent people like Roman Bondarenko. More than 1,000 people have been subject to politically motivated charges, and many of them have already been sentenced by the courts. So far, in Belarus, there are more than 256 political prisoners, and we cannot remain silent. Today we will hear the testimonies of all these gross abuses, and we will try to shed a light on the current situation, in particular referring to the new round of repression, which is mostly targeting journalists. And also we have today with us Marina Zolatova, who is editor-in-chief of TUT.BY Belarus. So very welcome to all our speakers. And also, I will start to give the floor. I'm very honored to have with us today from Minsk, Valentin Stefanovic, who is reporting at Viasna all the violations and of course is defending the victims of this repression. And I give now the floor to Valentin, who is a human rights defender, vice president of Viasna and a lawyer. Valentin, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for this opportunity to have a speech today about the situation in Belarus. And as Eleonora said, that repression in Belarus to increase, unfortunately, and the situation going worse and worse every day. I just give you some numbers to understand how deep this crisis with the human rights crisis in Belarus. As you said, as you mentioned before, we have more than 250 political prisoners in Belarus, but unfortunately, their number is expected to increase, and this is not the final number, unfortunately, because we know about more than 1,000 people who are now in against them started the criminal investigations, and we know the names more than 770 people, and most of them in jail now. And authorities continue to detain peaceful protesters because we still have a peaceful protests. Of course, it's not so big like it was before in autumn or in August, but the people still came to the streets to protest against the regime. In January, for example, according with our information that we collected together with our volunteers, it's not the full information, of course. We know about at least 8,073 people who was detained for participating in peaceful demonstrations. And we know about more than 300 people who were sentenced to short terms to detention for 15 and more days, and very hard conditions in Kristina and other detention centers. When people spend all these 15 or more days in full cells, they can't sleep, and they haven't any normal food and other. And also, of course, we're concerned about the last situation that we had right now, when the authorities start to attack the human rights organizations. And a few last weeks, our colleagues from the Office to Protection of People with Disabilities was detained. Mr. Drozdowski and Brablevsky, they're in jail now. Before, 4 our members of Viasna also was detained, including the head of our Homel branch, Mr. Sudalenko, and the coordinator of our volunteers, Marfa Rapkova. And then this week, this week, the authorities start attack our local branches, and it was a series of searches, and in the different part of the country. At private home of our activists or in our local offices in Homel, in Moser, Rechica, Brest, and in our 2 offices in Minsk. And I spent a few hours on one of the searchers together with the criminal police, who found something in our office. I think they found the money because according with their idea, everything that we did, everything what we are doing when we help the people who was repressed, this is a financial support the protests, and this is part of the criminal case that they are started against the human rights defenders now. So it's quite a serious situation for us. It's looks like it was in the previous crisis in 2010, but it's more deep, and it's more massive, because thousands of Belarusian people now faced with the repressions, and they was repressed. And unfortunately, our judicial system at national level completely collapsed, and we haven't any possibility, any chance to protect the rights of our people, our citizens, in the national level. That's why it's so important to start any international investigation about these crimes against humanity, including cases of torture, including cases of killing. And I am very happy that now this process started, and now we're in the process of discuss how we can use these international instruments, and I hope that the Council of Human Rights in UN will vote for this instrument very soon. And I don't talk enough about the journalists because we have our colleagues and they will say more about that. And why we have this situation right now and the situation going worse and worse. I think personally because our government, the regime, they're afraid the spring activism, that people go into the streets again and the protest will be massive again. That's why they start to pressure more and more against journalists and the human rights defenders and against activists of local communities. They found activists in local chats and detained them, arrested them, and pressured them. And unfortunately, we wait the very difficult time. And of course, we need your supports and your solidarity. Thank you very much. And I will be ready to answer on your question if you will have your questions.
Thank you so much, Valentin, for your testimony. We know how difficult and dangerous is what you are doing and for you and for your colleagues report this situation. And we also know that you are the voice of those that cannot be heard. From our side, we will continue with our partner, with MPs, with journalists, to call on the Italian European institution, as well as all the other relevant institutions for a concrete action. I would like to turn now to the next speaker, Dianis Kuczynski, from the Department of the Foreign Affairs at the Office of Svetlana Tikhanovskaya. Dianis, the floor is yours.
Grazie. Buonasera signore e signori, grazie mille per l'opportunità di parlare davanti a voi oggi. And I would like to first agree with Mr. Stefanovic that it will not be an exaggeration if we say that the situation with human rights in Belarus remains critical. It really is, and it's only getting worse day by day. By now, we have almost 32,000 people detained during the post-election protests. Hundreds have been tortured and 8 have been murdered. And we know that it may sound like just numbers or statistics, but in fact we have thousands of very tragic stories behind these numbers. And today we have here a representative of Human Rights Center Viasna and also our biggest independent media, TUT.BY, and they are under non-stop attack and repressions from the regime. Marfa Rabkova, who's a coordinator of this now volunteer service, right now faces up to 12 years in prison. And TUT.BY journalist Katerina Borisevich is facing a trial today for basically disclosing medical information about Roman Bondarenko, an artist killed by regime cronies. And I would like just to underline that Belarusian human rights defenders and independent journalists are our real heroes, and as well as every political prisoners and everyone who is now in custody only because they were demanding freedom and dignity for the country. I believe the question that many are asking now is where Belarus is going and what every government, every organization, every person can do in order to help Belarusians in their struggle for freedom and dignity. I will start with our office, at the Office of Svetlana Tikhanovskaya. We have been working on the way how to solve this crisis in Belarus, and we came up with a vision for New Belarus and also the strategy. Among other things, in particular, we continue our cooperation with civil society, trade unions, strike committees, and also people on the ground. We also communicate with civil servants and develop a concept of a national reconciliation, and also try to establish relationships with employees of state apparatus. We're also trying to start a dialogue with those security officials who did not commit crimes. And our goal is to initiate nationwide dialogue, form a negotiation process, and eventually hold new elections. But we also need our international friends and our partners to help us to restore law in Belarus. And I know that in this webinar, we have also decision makers and who are presented here today, and also who are listening online. And I would like to underline again that the Office of Svetlana Tikhanovskaya asks European Union and Italy in particular to be more decisive and to take concrete actions to help Belarusians in their nonviolent struggle for democracy. We ask Italy as well to demand the release of political prisoners more vocally. And also Italy, we think that Italy can also participate in the international investigation of the crimes against humanity committed by the regimes and its cronies. And of course, Italy is one of the most powerful countries in Europe, and we believe that Italy should use its influence in organizations like OSCE, the United Nations, in the European Union in general, and to call for the mediation of the crisis and the new elections in Belarus. I also know that we are on YouTube and radio now, and there are many Italians who are listening to us right now. I would like to say that nostri amici, per favore, scrivete lettere ai nostri prigionieri politici. Per favore, tenete la Belarus all'ordine del giorno. La vostra solidarietà, la vostra attenzione e ovviamente le vostre azioni sono estremamente importanti. And even though Belarus and Italy are not neighboring countries, there is a very strong cultural connection between our nations. And we do rely on your strong position and support. Grazie mille e viva la Belarus.
Thank you so much, Leonis. And we will certainly come back to all the things that you have said. But now I will give the floor to Marina Zubotova. She's an independent journalist, editor-in-chief of TUT.BY, a Belarusian independent news website. She has been persecuted by the authorities for doing her job. So I will give the floor to Marina because I know that she has to leave soon for an interview. So Marina, the floor is yours. Marina will speak in Russian and will be translated in English.
Добрый вечер. Я прошу прощения, что я говорю по-русски и занимаю больше времени.
Hello,
я могла бы выступить по-английски, но, к сожалению, мне надо было бы подготовиться, и это бы тоже заняло еще больше времени.
Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for dedicating me this time. I'm very sorry to not being able to speak in English. I could have done it, however, it would have taken me some more time. So today I'm delivering my speech in Russian.
Я могу сказать, что преследование журналистов в Беларуси началось задолго до выборов.
I would like to say that the perpetrations and persecution of journalists has started long before the last elections.
То есть весной, в мае, журналистов начали задерживать на несколько часов, увозить в РУВД, потом их отпускали. А в сентябре уже дошло до административных арестов. Их задерживали и останавливались.
I remember that in May of last year, journalists were taken by the police and were detained for a couple of hours. Later, in September, our journalists were given administrative arrests.
Их обвиняли в участии в несанкционированных акциях протеста, хотя на самом деле они в этих протестах не участвовали, они их освещали.
They were accused of taking part in unagreed protests. However, they were not taking part in this protest. They were just trying to show the information related to the protests.
Судьи выносили приговоры на основании данных людей в балаклавах, которые выступали по видеосвязи и с измененными личными данными.
The judges were accusing our journalists based on the information given by people with covered faces. They were getting connected to the hearings through video connections, and their names and surnames were changed.
Таким образом, например, у нас 6 журналистов TUT.BY отбыли административный арест. Вообще всего...
In such a way, 6 journalists representing TUT.BY were detained according to the administrative, and they were administratively arrested.
Всего же в прошлом году наших журналистов задерживали 39 раз, а если говорить о Беларуси в целом, то в Беларуси в прошлом году журналистов задерживали 477 раз.
So last year, our journalists of TUT.BY were detained 39 times. But if we take Belarus as a whole, and if we take all the Belarusian journalists, they were detained all in all 477 times.
Но это еще не все, потому что в ноябре к административному преследованию добавили уголовное. И теперь прямо сейчас...
But that's not everything. It's not the biggest news. In November last year, besides civil or administrative arrests, our journalists have started to being penally persecuted.
Мне вот прямо сейчас уже звонят, что делать?
I'm sorry, I'm being called right now by this other media outlet. I don't know what to do right now.
Maybe we can...
Это займет минуты 4.
Okay, Marina. Okay,
It will take me 4 minutes to...
come back later for the questions if we have any. Thank you so much for now. And of course, Marina was speaking on behalf of all the journalists that now in Belarus are suffering this incredible repression. And a message for the audience, if you have any questions, you can write the question in the chat on YouTube, in our YouTube channel, where we are live streaming. So, and thank you to Marina. And in the context of the press crackdown, I would like to recall the alarm raised by Freedom House in its last report, where we can read that authoritarian regimes have become more repressive while free countries have regressed. Democracy is under attack, and there is a general decline in global freedom. At this point, we need to recognize the crucial role of the journalism, even in the free countries, and to act to protect all media workers worldwide. And in this framework, I would like to turn now to Jacopo Jacoboni. Jacopo is a writer, a journalist for the Italian newspaper La Stampa, reporting on authoritarian regimes, populism, and on the risk of disinformation and propaganda. Jacopo.
Hello, hello, Nora, and really thanks you all for having me. It's a real pain to me to speak from the safety of Italy in the face of your courage and bravery. So excuse me really for this position, because this is really it's difficult for me to speak. We are just it seems to be really easy to write and to speak here in Italy in front of you. So that said, I will try to fix one point in these few words I will say to you. My point is that the EU response to the crisis so far has been sound, but I think that it has also been too slow and too weak, because what's lacking almost totally is that it's not enough the EU to judge, to assess, and to condemn, of course. What we should do, I suppose, is to take actions. And in my view, there are two actions. The first one is a very strong economic support for activists and organizations fighting on the ground in Belarus. And these, I think, should be immediate and could not be more delayed. The second one is to take, of course, aggressive stance and sanctions against Belarusian political figure related with Alexander Lukashenka. Without these two actions, I think that every Western speech is absolutely useless. So that said, what I can say to you is what's happening now currently here in Italy on Belarus, and I will say also on the, if you don't mind, also on the Russian protests. I know that these are different issues, but we for some part we have to relate them, in my view. So what's happening in Italy is that in November, Italy officially took a firm stance in the working group of the mechanism of the United Nations on the state of protection of fundamental rights and the violation of human rights in Belarus. The Italian permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Lorenzo Cornado, explicitly called for an impartial international investigations over what's happening in Belarus. So this is good. But this is absolutely not enough, because as you know, as you possibly know, we in Italy, we are changing now the Italian government just right now, just these days. And we are coming from a government which was run from a prime minister, the former prime minister of a populist party, the Five Star Movement, which has been historically very pro-Russia, both the Five Star and the opposition, the former opposition party of the Lega. And the prime minister, the former prime minister, Giuseppe Conte, had in midst of November, a phone call with Vladimir Putin, talking about two issues: Belarus, repressions in Belarus, and the poisoning of Alexei Navalny in Tomsk, in Russia. And Conte discussed the issues, but he totally accepted the minimizing explanations from Vladimir Putin, both on Belarus and the Navalny case. Just to give you an idea of in my view, of the weakness of the Italian position, I will say that Conte raised the importance of a mediation, an international mediation entrusted to the OSCE with Putin, and the Russian on Belarus, and the Russian response was that every mediation was seen in Belarus was seen as a sort of political interference in a foreign state affair. And Conte didn't reply anything at all to this. So this was very weird and, in my view, ominous behavior from the former Italian prime minister. And that said, just to be a little bit more optimistic, we just this day we are changing government, as you know, because Conte government collapsed, and now we have we could call it a national unity government run by a very strong Europeanist, the former ECB president Mario Draghi. And in his first speech to the High Chamber, to the Senate in Italy, he spoke firmly about the strong Europeanism which Italy is committed to, and he spoke against the violations of the human rights. He mentioned explicitly Russia and China. He didn't mention Belarus, but it was absolutely in context that a change is happening in Italy with the premiership of Mario Draghi. So this is important to be to emphasize with you. So we as public opinion and as Italian journalists, we have now in charge someone who I think who really cares about Europeanism and also our relationship with Joe Biden's US, and no more with Donald Trump. As you know, Donald Trump was described from the former Italian Prime Minister as a very friend of mine. Literally, Giuseppe Conte told this about Trump. Why am I been talking this to you? Because I think that this is the main point to do some sort of effective political pressure here in Italy, to press the new government to invite Mr. Draghi to take action on, as I said, he already in his first speech, he said against Russia things that the former prime minister didn't say in 2.5 years. So I think this is a little light in this current situation. What I last would say is that we are trying to make Italians understand better that we can win a fight for respecting human rights in Europe if we stay committed to our Western democracies, and if we stay committed to an absolutely no appeasement policy with Russia. Because in my view, last week, Eleonora, I was talking with in a private video chat with Mikhail Khodorkovsky and Garry Kasparov and Vladimir Kara-Murza, who has been poisoned 2 times from the Russian secret services, and now also the poisoning of Kara-Murza has been exposed from an independent investigation from Bellingcat, and they all these brave guys are asking the European Union to take a stance and not to think that an appeasement is possible on Russia. Not to say that Russian issue is absolutely the same of Belarusian issue. I don't pretend to say that. But I think the two issues are somehow related, and we won't really help our friends in Belarus if we won't take a very firm stance on the aggressive action of Russia in Europe and against the Western democracies. So that's I would like to tell to you for now.
Thank you, Jacopo, also for speaking about the role of Italy and the role of all democratic countries. And we have a tool, and this tool is the sanctions. And we are working hard to promote and for the utilization, for the use of these sanctions. And targeted sanction, which includes asset freeze and travel ban. And this is a tool that we should have on the table if we want to act effectively. The Magnitsky sanctions, for example, recently adopted by the EU under the name of a global human rights sanction regime, can be a valuable tool in enforcing human rights, and they should be used to hold the responsible accountable and to protect the victims of the violations. As the Italian Federation for Human Rights, together with our partners worldwide, we have provided so many recommendations together with institutions on the adoption and on the use of these sanctions, and also on the importance of a coordinated approach among the countries that are using these sanctions, as US, as Canada, as UK. And in this sense, I'm now very pleased to have today with us Senator Roberto Rampi, because he submitted in March 2019 a draft legislation for a Magnitsky-style law to the Italian Senate. So I leave the floor to Senator Roberto Rampi.
Thank you very much, Eleonora. Thank you very much to all. And I'm very, very glad to be here and to remember when we went in Belarus, one was not so in the top of news, but we understood some years ago that there was a very interesting and very dangerous also situation, because I believe that the actual situation in Belarus is like that's because is the end of era for Belarus power. And when power understand that is finishing its time, is finishing its era, it can generally react in a very, very dangerous and very, very horrible way. And that's exactly the situation in Belarus. As Eleonora told, we tried in 1919, so quite a few of time ago, to translate in Italian. And I mean, translating is not only a linguistic way, but was not so easy to understand how to put in our juridic system the idea of Magnitsky Act. And Italy could be and could be also the first country in Europe in a different legislative system, not the British one, to use that kind of sanction. And I believe it's very important because, as Jacoboni says, we had to do something very concrete and very strong. And we know that many sanctions, many economical sanctions, have not the meaning and the results we all expect, because many times the economical sanctions are stronger against the poor people of the country that had sanctioned, that have no reason to be sanctioned, and didn't go against the power of that country. So Magnitsky is exactly a very useful system. But I also believe we can do many other things, First of all, we have to respond to what you asked us, so to write letters to the people in prison. And I believe, Eleonora, we can organize something about that, and we can do something also with Italian parliamentarians. So I can be instruments, if you want, and if all of you want, to ask my colleagues to write letters that can be something very important for them in jail, in prison, to understand that people around the world are with them and they are not alone, but also a kind of pressure against the the power of Belarus to understand that they are going more and more against European country. And last things I want to say, but then I'm here also for answer and for your suggestion or what you want. You know, I'm very, I'm working hard inside the Council of Europe, and the Council of Europe had a very special situation with Belarus. When we went in Belarus some years ago together, to involve the country in abolition of death penalty. We also wanted to use the instruments of being part of Council of Europe, because Belarus was a country that could be inside Council of Europe. Is the only European country of idea of big Europe that is not inside the Council of Europe family. And it's very strange, and is out of that family because of the death penalty system. But in that moment, could be very, very useful if Belarus was inside Council of Europe, because, for example, Belarus people could go to European Court to ask for their rights, and they can't in that situation. So I believe we have to do more inside the Council of Europe about Belarus. We are speaking a lot, I believe also a bit too much about Russia and about all situation around Russia, Ukraine, Georgia, and all the other country. And we have to do more about Belarus, because I really believe that great country, that wonderful country, that very strong country with a very complex but interesting history had to be part of European family, and first of all about Council of Europe family. So I'm here for you. I want to help you. I'm very glad to meet you and some of you that I didn't already knew, but I read a lot about you. And we know with Eleonora, with all friends of FIDU, with a friend of Open Dialogue, that we can work more and more in that particular moment. Last thing I want to say, because we had very popular moment of Belarus protest, but like every time there is the top moment, the popular moment, and then something can be silently go away. So we have to work not to let European people forget about Belarus. I believe Jacoboni says something important about that, because we know that there was the moment of popular protest, and now is the most difficult moment, because people feel more and more alone and can't believe that everything and all the suffering and all the problem and all the very terrible repression they had could be something that finish without results. So we have to be stronger, we have to help you, and we have to be concrete to help you not to lost your fight, because we want to fight with you.
Thank you, Roberto. And this is absolutely a good point, because we need to protect human rights anytime. And now we have a question that I would like to address to Dianis Kuczynski. It's a question from PM Studio News. Could the current situation in Russia, the arrest of Navalny and his trial, have a negative impact on the situation in Belarus?
Thank you very much for the question. I think as Roberto Rampi said correctly, it's a question of focus. When you have difficult situation in neighboring countries, sometimes the focus may be a little bit spread. So I think that's one of the things that may be of an issue here.
Thank you. And I think that another asked question is what can we do? What can we do here in Italy? What can we do in Europe to help civil society, to help journalists, the harassment against journalists, and to help this transition towards this democratic transition? So I would address this question to Valentin and then to Marina, that she's back.
I personally think that the position of EU now is extremely important, and I think it's extremely important to continue ask to release all political prisoners, to talk about the new election, about the negotiation, and about all these topics. And also I want to mention that the role of the business, that's also a very important question, if I think, because in this year, the business, foreign business who work in Belarus show that they also think about the human rights in business. And for example, the ice hockey championship show that when some foreign companies said that they will not support financially the ice hockey championship if it will be in Minsk, like Skoda or Nivea, Miklimoli, and other companies who didn't want to support financially this ice hockey championship in these kind of conditions in the country with the deep crisis with human rights, when more than 200 political prisoners in prison, including journalists and human rights defenders. It's not a time, it's not a place. And that was a very good idea. And it's a very good example how business can play their own role in this kind of situation. For example, when some people lost their job in our Soligorsk-Kali factory. This is the biggest potash factory in Belarus and maybe in Europe, I don't know. And some of them, some of these workers tried to organize the strike, and as a result, they was detained, and after they just lost their job. And Norwegian company who cooperate with this Soligorsk-Kali, they said, we just didn't want to have any business with you because you just made a lot of things against the human rights. So finally, this company, Belarusian company, said that they will invite these workers back. And a lot of Italian companies work in Belarus now. And I think that's also a time to think about about this topic like human rights. And also, it's a lot of things that ordinary people can make in Europe. Show your solidarity. They send the letters for prisoners. I just told you the story. All these faces of political prisoners, I know all of them. I remember all their stories, all these 200 people. Maybe I'm crazy, but I remember all of them. And I know a story, one girl, 19 years old. She's in prison now. And she was without any family, and she spent a lot of time in Italy, in the family in Italy, in a small Italian town. And now Italian people ask us about her. Why she's not a political prisoner? We said, we don't know nothing about her. It's the first time when we heard about her from you, from Italian people. And after we start to collect informations, yes, and we, of course, we said that this girl is a political prisoner. She's in prison now. And I think it's a good opportunity to all Italians now to send the letters for her. And the same stories with our journalists, a lot of, it's a new, something new trend now in this year, in this crisis, let's say. A lot of women in prison. It's like 20% of political prisoners now, this is a woman. It's never happened before. This is a result of activity of women movement, of course, because it was a woman revolution. It was something new for us. When Lukashenka showed very old type of thinking, when our constitution not for women, the woman never be a president, our society not ready to vote for the woman. And finally, the women win the election. And the women who came to the streets to fighting against violence, against torture, and a lot of them was detained, a lot of them in prison now. That's a good time to support them. For Italian, for our people, just send a letter. That's very easy, but it's very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Valentina, and I'm sure that this message will be heard. And so send letter, please. This is an appeal, send letter to prisoner, because absolutely they need to know that they are not alone, despite the propaganda, despite the repression of the regime. Marina.
I would like to say that all the judges and prosecutors that are responsible for unfair sentences must be included in the sanction list. And it's very strange that they are in the sanction list of the United States or Great Britain, but not in the EU list. That must be very touchy for them, I think. And I think that it's very important to stay focused on Belarus because it's a country with 9.4 million people population, and we're going towards concentration camp very quickly. And I would like to say some words about the media situation in Belarus, but I'm not sure if I have time to do it because I left for another interview. Can I say some words about it?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Sure, you can.
So I told that 9 journalists or media experts are currently behind the bars under criminal cases, and 2 girls got 2 years of prison yesterday. 2 girls from Belgrade. It was already mentioned, just for live streaming. And our Katya Borisevich, she is Мария, помогите мне, пожалуйста, потому что я боюсь тут немножко ошибиться. Хорошо, спасибо. Время, да. Значит, Катя Борисевич.
Excuse me, Marina. Do you think would it be possible to send message, possibly through their lawyers, to some of the journalists, the Belarusian journalists behind the bars, to send messages or to receive responses from them?
I think it's possible because it's like a lottery. Some of letters they get some of letters, but not every letter they get. Yeah, and you can try send a letter via other people who live in Belarus. For example, you can send a letter via me, for example, if you want.
Yes. I think, excuse me, but I think it should be great if we could be able to get a voice from them here in Europe,
but you know,
through an intermediary.
These guys from security forces are very suspicious if,
of course,
when they see letters in English or other languages, and it can be a reason why the letter
very risky.
Don't get letters. So it's better to use Google Translate, for example.
Yes, of course.
Okay. Катя Борисевич, это самая большая беда, и это весь ужас и кошмар, это самый большой ужас и кошмар, который я испытала за последнее время, потому что...
Katya, I'm sorry, I'll get back to Russian and I will use the interpreter. So I'm getting back to the situation with Katerina Borisevich. This is the horriest horror and the the most terrifying situation that I've experienced in the whole last months.
Как сказать маме? как говорить с Катиной дочерью, которая встретила свое совершеннолетие без мамы.
I don't know how to tell Katerina's mom about her daughter's situation. I don't know how to talk to Katerina's daughter and tell her, explain to her that she got 18 years old and celebrated her birthday without her mom.
Катя находится за решеткой уже 3 месяца, совершенно ни за что, а точнее за то, что делала свою работу, проверяла информацию, то, что должен делать каждый журналист.
Katerina Borisevich has been in jail for 3 months already. She is in jail due to nothing, basically, due to the fact that she was performing her professional duties. She was checking the information just like a regular journalist would do.
И сегодня над ней начался суд.
And today we had a hearing, and there were judges judging her.
Над ней и над доктором, который подтвердил информацию о том, что погибший Роман Бондаренко был трезв.
She was persecuted and judged together with the doctor who claimed that Roman Bondarenko, who died, was sober. Yeah.
И самое ужасное, что нас, коллег и других независимых журналистов нам не разрешили освещать этот суд.
The worst thing of all is related to the fact that we as colleagues were not allowed to provide people with information related to this case.
Этот суд смогли освещать только журналисты государственных изданий.
This case and this hearing was mediated only through the state and governmental media and state and governmental journalists only.
И еще более ужасная вещь, что этот суд в итоге закрыли. То есть никто не узнает, что проходит за закрытыми дверями этого суда.
And what is more, this hearing in this case was at the end of the day closed. It was a closed hearing, so no one actually knows and knew what was happening and what was going on there.
Кате и доктору грозит до 3 лет лишения свободы.
Both Katerina and the mentioned doctor can be detained for up to 3 years.
В отношении тех, кто избил Романа Бондаренко, уголовное дело очень долго не заводили. Его завели только вчера, накануне суда по Кате и доктору.
And when we get back to the situation of Roman Bondarenko, the guy who was beaten, those people who beat him, they were not, against them there were no criminal cause filed. It was filed only yesterday, but for a long, long time there was no file at all.
И никто из избивавших Романа, причастных к его смерти, до сих пор не был задержан.
The killers of Roman Bondarenko, the people who took part into his beating, were not arrested. No one's arrested up to now.
Это, пожалуй, самое серьезное испытание, с которым мы столкнулись. Я должна сказать, что жизнь независимых медиа в Беларуси никогда не была простой.
I should say that this is the hardest trial that we've experienced, and I would like to mention that the life of the independent journalist has never been easy in Belarus.
Но сейчас, конечно, это настоящая война.
However, we're undergoing a real war right now.
И кроме этих уголовных дел, я сказала, что всего 9 журналистов и медиаэкспертов сейчас находятся за решеткой по обвинению в уголовных преступлениях.
And besides the criminal cases, like I said, there are 9 journalists that are being currently arrested and detained, and they're about to get their hearings related to the criminal cases and penal cases again.
Кроме этих дел, есть еще блокировка десятков интернет-ресурсов.
Besides these 9 cases, we have a lot of international news resources and news outlets being blocked.
Фактически запрет на работу для иностранных журналистов, они все лишены аккредитации.
There is a total prohibition for foreign journalists to be able to work in Belarus. Their license has been revoked.
TUT.BY, самый популярный белорусский интернет-ресурс, лишили статуса СМИ.
TUT.BY is the most popular media outlet in Belarus. It's now been deprived of the status of mass media resource.
И независимые печатные издания лишены возможности издаваться в Беларуси.
Independent printed media has also no right to print their news in Belarus.
И за решеткой в течение многих месяцев уже находятся блогеры, и тут невозможно не упомянуть историю Игоря Лосика, который более месяца голодал в СИЗО.
And we have a lot of bloggers being arrested and detained. We cannot but mention the story of Igor Losik. He's a famous blogger who claimed starvation, and he starved for many days in prison.
У него маленький ребенок, Игорь, более полугода сидит за решеткой ни за что, с ним не проводятся никакие следственные действия, я могу понять его отчаяние.
Igor Losik has a small kid. He's been detained for 6 months already. No one is trying to understand, to prosecute and investigate his case, and I understand that he may feel desperate at this point.
И в таких условиях мы работаем и верим в лучшее будущее.
So this is how we work. This is how we try to believe in the best future for us.
Да, и я еще хочу сказать огромное спасибо Валентину Стефановичу, потому что весна — это просто что-то невероятное. Огромное вам спасибо. Ребята собирают абсолютно всю информацию о задержанных, об условиях содержания, общаются с родственниками, помогают по-всякому. И случай с Марфой Рабковой, которая уже 5 месяцев находится за решеткой, просто вопиющее беззаконие.
And I would like to personally thank Valentin Stefanovich and his center Viasna for what they do, because their center and what they do is a great miracle. Basically, they gather all the information on the detained people. They also try to investigate the conditions of the detained people. And the situation that happened with Marfa Babkova is something unbelievable.
I'm sorry, I just say a few words for better understanding this situation and the very deep crisis. And now we're really very concerned about the new changes on the law, because we have now a lot of rhetorics about new law against extremism. And I saw these proposals, and it's just, we're going back to 1982, I don't know, 90, and very far from Brezhnev time, because if they vote for that law, it means that any public activity, human rights activity, it will be impossible, because the defamation of Belarus, the insult against officials, against government, this is all extremism, and we still have a criminal responsibility for insult of president, insult of officials, the discreditation of Republic of Belarus. Discreditation Republic of Belarus, it's something like anti-Soviet propaganda. It's the same. It's just little bit different words, but it's the same actually. It was like in Soviet time when it was dissidents and the human rights defenders in prison. It means that we can operate it publicly. And the other one, this is about foreign agency. I don't know why they need this law, because foreign support is prohibited in Belarus since 2004. We can't use this officially, because you need to register to helps foreign supports in the special department, administration of president, and they will decide if you can use it or not. And of course, you can't use any foreign supports to human rights activities or other kind of things. And if you have some foreign supports without registration, this is a criminalized. I don't know why they need it, but they discuss about that. So it shows that they have this idea for more and more restrictions, and as a result, I think we will have more and more repressions.
Okay, thank you, Valentina. Thank you, Marina, for this precious information. Now we have another question that I would address to Senator Roberto Rampi. If it's possible to stop all kind of communications, relations, political, economical, cultural communication between Europe and Belarus, isolate the country. Roberto, if you want to reply. Roberto, the microphone.
Sorry, Eleonora. I forget to open. It's very difficult to answer the question because I believe there is a different point of view. I mean, from one side, we have to make stronger relationship between Belarus, and I have to say that maybe that situation is also a result of a poor relationship in the past. I mean, between 1991 and all the years after that, I believe international community in general and Europe in particular was able to do more and more in the relationship with Belarus and to give hands to Belarus to have a movement and a change and a human rights development. And I believe we worked not so much about that because we know there are some countries that are more on focus of international community and some other ones that are less in focus. And I believe that that's a problem. When we go together in Belarus, you know, Eleonora, as FIDU, we find a very interesting situation with a strong, very interesting civil society, for example, that is not so developed in other country. We also speak a lot, for example, about Italy with our embassy, and we knew and we understand how many economical relationship and how many Italian people work in economy started to do very, very interesting affairs and very, very interesting economical development inside Belarus, but with so many presence of Italy inside that country, from the economical point of view, we have not the same strong presence from the from other point of view, from democracy, from human rights, and many like that. So I believe now there is a very difficult situation. There is a very, it's very possible, it's really possible that Belarus can go more and more in a side of a country relationship. So begin more and more a country that go outside the relationship with other countries. So I believe we have to do more. I believe we have to understand that Belarus is really part of Europe. And so we have to work in Belarus. And I'm honest, Eleonora, we have not to do the same mistake that we do in that in last years about many other countries, because for example, the experience of other side of Mediterranean Sea is not a good experience, because we are not being able to help that country that had a very interesting moment of changement, and we have not been able to help them. So we have to change the priority of human rights in foreign affairs agenda. And the last things I want to say, that is, I just use my time for that because I believe it is interesting. In that, you know, all of you know that these are the days of the new government, and we heard the new prime minister in Senate and also in the Chamber of Deputies. I believe there was a interesting argument, new argumentation about human rights in international relationship. It's something interesting. They are only few of words, but we have to use everything in politics. So if the new government is something new, I believe we have to try to stress that few of words we hear in Senate to open a new era of foreign affairs in Italy that is stronger in agenda with human rights. I believe, I hope you understand me, that because I'm very, I have to be a bit, I have to find a very strong but a street that I know is not so, is not an highway, okay? But we have to try to go in that street to help really our friends in Belarus and other friends all around the world that are suffering about human rights.
Eleonora?
Yes.
Can I ask you, can I ask just a question to, I don't know if to Valencino or Marina or who wants to try to answer to this. What do you expect as the more realistic scenario right now in Belarus? Do you fear there is a risk that situation were to precipitate even, I suppose, in the worst case scenario, with the foreign intervention, which has been so far literally excluded from Russia, but I'm not sure that we can stand firmly to the words of Vladimir Putin, because he is a liar first. Or do you expect some sort of improvements? I don't know through what pathway, but in my view, I suppose there is just one. There should be just one way to put out Lukashenka out of charge. But if Lukashenka stays in charge, is it possible to open a kind of dialogue with the current Belarusian government, or is totally unrealistic, as I suppose? But this is my view. I'm not there.
Я думаю, что единственный диалог, который здесь возможен, диалог с Лукашенко, это диалог о транзите власти, об условиях, при которых он откажется от власти. Потому что если говорить о...
I believe that the only possible dialogue applicable to Lukashenko is the dialogue related to his transition of power, and it should be related to the condition for such a transition.
Okay.
Но если говорить о будущем для Лукашенко, то совершенно очевидно и для меня, и для Валентин, не знаю, согласится или нет, что политического будущего у Лукашенко в Беларуси нет. Откат назад невозможен, пути обратно нет. Поддержки Лукашенко, то есть определенная часть людей, которые его поддерживают, но она очень мала.
The possible future for Lukashenko is, I don't know, I cannot see it in our country. I'm not really sure what Valentin thinks about that. However, what I feel is that there is no backup for Lukashenko. There is no backup version. There is no way back. There is some extremely scarce support among the population for Lukashenko.
У него был шанс уйти вовремя, но он им не воспользовался. Он слишком сильно поверил в то, что его любят. Почему-то он так считает.
Lukashenko did have a chance to go away, but he didn't take advantage of this chance. He strongly believes, or wants to believe, that he is beloved by people.
Но сначала люди были возмущены всего лишь итогами выборов, но потом возмущение стало расти в связи с насилием, в связи с репрессиями. И это насилие и репрессии затронули очень-очень широкие слои населения.
At the beginning, there basically was a huge embarrassment related to the results of the elections. However, this embarrassment has started to grow, and it also was due to the fact of incrementation of repressions and torture and violations.
То есть это, можно сказать, агония, да, режима, но она может продолжаться довольно долго.
So what we see now is the agony of this regime. However, this agony may go on and on and on.
Должен быть какой-то триггер, который может повлиять на ситуацию, но пока можно прогнозировать, что всего лишь будут ужесточаться репрессии.
We do believe that there should be a trigger for the situation to change, but in the opposite case, we believe that the repression will just go and increase.
Если Лукашенко захочет ослабить репрессии, показать, что он добрый, это совершенно тут же его власть на этом и закончится.
If Lukashenko decides to debilitate these repressions, if he decides to show that he is a good guy, it will be the trigger for his power for his era to end.
Что касается участия Путина, то здесь два мнения. Первое – это то, что Путин будет поддерживать режим Лукашенко до конца. Второе – это то, что Путину невыгодно поддерживать режим, который не пользуется доверием со стороны народа.
When we talk about Putin, there basically are two opinions. And the first piece of opinion is the fact that Putin supports Lukashenko and will support him until the very end. The second opinion is a little bit opposite. It says that Putin will not take advantage in supporting a dictator, a president who is not supported by his people.
Мы помним, чем закончилась история Януковича в Украине. Вот.
We still remember the situation that happened to Yanukovych in Ukraine.
В понедельник в Сочи пройдут переговоры между Лукашенко и Путиным. Будем внимательно следить за тем, как будет развиваться ситуация.
We know that next Monday in Sochi, there's going to be a negotiation held between Lukashenko and Putin. So we will try to stay tuned and see how the situation develops.
Valentin, I don't know if you want to add something.
No, generally I agree, and it's something very important happened on last year. I think it's the first time when Lukashenko really lost support by the majority of the society. And I think this is a result of that the generation changed since this 26 years. And now we have a lot of young generation, young people who are active, who are voting, and they didn't want to live on this kind of a country like a small piece of Soviet Union, you know. And another side, it's very difficult for the regime be a very long time in mobilizing to mobilize everything, you know, and to control the situation. They can do this, I don't know, maybe 1 year or 2 years, but what they will do after that. So now we heard a lot about the new constitutional reform and about new referendum, about new election, and but it's not a clear situation why they did that, why they will do that, and why they need this. And some people think that maybe it will be like some kind of transfer of the power, but Lukashenko will be somewhere near. He not leave at all. So, but I'm agree that it's quite complicated for him now to organize any electoral campaign because people don't support him. The majority of the society don't support him. Nobody loves him anymore. It's a big tragic for him because nobody loves him.
I think Marina mentioned one very important thing here, that there is no turning back point. So Belarusians cannot turn the page after people being murdered, after so many people, faced violence and saw this violence. So there will be no possibility to turn this page as Lukashenko thinks the society might do. And in this regard, it's more of a question, not whether if this happens, but more of when and how. And in order to do it faster, we need to solidarize and keep the pressure on the regime. And that's what we are also asking all of you, everyone who listens, to help us with that. So to get it done and to close the new Belarus faster.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Please, Jacopo.
Is there culturally, some sort of a European soft power within the young people in Belarus, or there is also a cultural Russian influence? What is prominent there? This is, I think, important because I think that politics is anywhere and always is downstairs from culture. So if there are so many young people against the repressions and against the regime, what we could hope from a Western country is that there is also some sort of cultural influence of Europe within current Belarus. But I don't know if this is the fact, because I'm coming back from this summer. I've been across the border through Poland and Belarus. And there is also a problem within Poland regarding the behavior and the attitude of Polish people toward the Western democracies, because there are, of course, people that would especially in great city, would like to read Western magazine, newspapers, and books. But there are also schools, I'm talking about Poland, your neighbor country, that are still teaching Russian literature, Russian authors. Of course, this is absolutely important. But what I would like to understand from you is if you feel not apart from politics, if you feel a cultural help from the Western debate and the Western books and Western newspapers.
I can answer this one if colleagues are okay. So Belarusians has always been a part of European family back from the medieval and Renaissance time. That's actually one of the our culture is very much influenced as well by Italian Renaissance back at the time. So we are part of European family. However, for last 2 centuries, in terms of democracy and these views, we really haven't had enough chances to live with real democracies, because at first was Russian Empire and then the Soviet Union, and then within our independence after the Soviet Union, there were only a couple of years before Lukashenko came. So I would say it's an interesting mixture of different things, and of course the Soviet culture had pretty big influence, and right now we also have a lot of television and media which are coming from Russia and the propaganda as well. But you see, the 21st century changes a lot and has changed a lot. People started to travel. People started to go, abroad, and they saw on their eyes how how Europe lives, you know, and it's not that dark as, you know, some of the news outlets may say. And I think this is a very important development for many of us. So of course, European culture, I would say, you know, metaphorically, and it's in our DNA. But the problem that Belarusians may face right now, and maybe will face as well in the future, is how to implement this freedom and this democracy and this culture, because for last years we haven't had a chance to live with this democracy. So there will be, of course, for New Belarus also a way to learn many things.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if Marina or Valentin want to add something in general before concluding.
Ну, пару слов.
Okay.
I would just like to add a couple of words.
У нас нет проблемы с доступом к информации или какой-либо культуре для людей любого возраста. Нет границ. Границы, ну, появились у нас с ковидом.
We don't have problems with related to the access to information of different kinds. There are no borders. Borders appeared with the appearance of COVID-19.
Беларусь всегда была на первом месте среди стран бывшего Советского Союза по количеству выданных шенгенских виз.
Belarus has always occupied the first place among all the post-Soviet Union countries with the number of Schengen visas issued.
Конечно, этих виз вообще не должно быть, я считаю.
I do believe there should be no visas at all.
Но как раз то, что появилось молодое поколение, точнее, как появилось, оно росло все это время. Это и стало причиной кризиса режима Лукашенко.
But I'm convinced that due to the young generation that has appeared, that has been growing with all this time, this young generation brought Lukashenko to his crisis.
Когда я говорю молодое поколение, это достаточно широкое понятие, то есть это люди от, ну, скажем, 16 до 45 лет.
And when I speak about young generation, I mean a broader subject matter. I'm talking about people starting from 16 and up to 45 years old.
Которые впервые голосовали на выборах в 1994 году.
These are the people who used to vote for the first time in 1994.
И вот все то время, пока Лукашенко был у власти и не менялся, эти люди росли, развивались, путешествовали, учились отвечать сами за свои семьи, за свои города, за свою страну. Они переросли давно режим Лукашенко, а Лукашенко этого не понял.
These people were growing, traveling, learning, changing. They made their own families all this time, whereas Lukashenko stayed the same. He is the old same Lukashenko. So this new generation, this young generation, has outgrown Lukashenko. However, Lukashenko didn't understand a bit of it.
Okay,
It's
clear.
Thank you, Maria.
And okay, as I said before, this webinar is co-organized together with the Association of Belarusians in Italy, Supolka. And I'm now very honored to pass the floor to the last speaker for the conclusion, Ekaterina Dziunsiuk, the spokesperson of Supolka. And maybe you can also reply to another question we have about the importance of diaspora in abroad.
Yes, thank you, Leonora. Thank you very much. And first of all, I would like to thank all of you to having found a possibility to join this webinar. And especially, I would like to express my admiration and I'm really grateful to my fellow citizens Marina and Valentin and all other Belarusians who are fighting in Belarus. Really, thank you very much for what you're doing. You are real heroes. Well, I would also like to add a couple of remarks on what has been said so far. A couple of propositions has been made. The first one is of Jacopo, and it concerns the economic support of the activists in Belarus. It is a really great idea, really excellent, but unfortunately, the dictatorship did its best to prevent us from helping financially people who are in Belarus. Maybe you already know that this summer and in the autumn as well, but mainly in summer, there was some fundraising activity, and some $3 million were collected, which were aimed at helping the victims of repressions and paying the fines or economic compensation to those who had to pass some weeks in prison. But a couple of months ago, the Belarusian government blocked the bank accounts of the people who got some
foreign money.
Some money from abroad, yeah. And that is why now we are well, prevented from helping people in Belarus. It is very risky.
Yes, but what I meant is that the only level at which we could try to do this is a governmental European level, of course, just to clarify my view, not as associations or non-governmental organizations, because I know right well that I think it's impossible to send money to those guys. But I think that it could be different at a European level with a European political intervention. This was my idea, and not just mine, really.
The idea is great. It is excellent, but until we have Lukashenka at power, all the money that come to Belarus will be used for financing the regime, unfortunately. So it's a great idea, but we cannot follow it right now. Well, let's leave it for the future. Another remark concerns writing letters to political prisoners. It is very important for these people to know that they are not alone. But if you write to a political prisoner, please use Google Translate and print your letter in Russian or in Belarusian. Russian works better than the Belarusian language, because there is the censorship. All the letters that arrive to the prisons get censored, and letters in foreign languages are banned. They will never get to the addressee. So I don't know, maybe we can think of a campaign of writing letters to political prisoners, but these letters should be translated. Maybe our association can help. Like just today, I got an email from a person who wanted to write to political prisoners, and I replied to her that she can write a text to me, I will translate it, and she can print it out and send it to the political prisoners. And that's what she did. She sent me a very short text in Italian. I translated it into Russian and sent it back to her. And I also told her where she could find the people who need receiving these letters. On Viasna's website, there is all the information. So thank you very much, Valentin and Viasna. You are doing really a great job, and your website is just fantastic. So that's it for now. Concerning the question that Eleonora asked me, which comes from someone from the public, I suppose, the role of diaspora in the Belarusian movement of resistance to the regime. Diaspora is in a bit uncomfortable position because physically we are far away, and at the same time we feel the pain of our fellow citizens, and it is very heartbreaking to us to realize that we cannot do much to help. So when it was possible to collect money, many of our activists, many Belarusians donated lots of money. Now we only have one thing left, which is spreading the information as much as we can about what is going on in Belarus. I know that diasporas in various countries are doing lots of things in order to inform the societies in which they live in. I would like to tell just a couple of things that we are doing here in Italy as the Belarusian diaspora. So we inform the Italian society in Italian about what is going on in Belarus every day. We started back in July by sending newsletters, by sending press releases, and trying to get in contact with Italian journalists to ask them to write about Belarus. After the elections, we had an outburst of activity of the diaspora, and we had many new people, so we had more resources to do something tangible. And we started with our social network. We have a Facebook page, we have a Twitter account, and we have Instagram, on which we publish every day news from Belarus. We have a team which is managing our social network. And we have another team who is in touch with the Italian media. We also prepare newsletter, which we send out regularly every 2 weeks or every 10 days. Of course, this is not much, but this is what we can do, and we do our best really to spread this information on each occasion we have. And there was a question, or someone said that, yeah, I think it was either Jacopo or Senator Rampi who told that we should keep the attention alive. Yeah, I think it was Senator Rampi who said that. And yeah, I agree. This is our duty as diaspora. We must keep the lights turned on Belarus. So this is what we do. And I hope it can help at least a little bit. And I would also like to send a message to the Belarusian people who are in Belarus. Please remember that you are not alone. We are here, and we are like a kind of an extension cord of the Belarusian civil society. We have the freedom of speech here, and we do use it. We also function as a kind of bridge between the Belarusian civil society and the Italian society. And this webinar is one of the results of this activity of the diaspora. So thank you very much to all of you for your contribution to the peaceful struggle of the Belarusian people, and for your courage, my dear fellow citizens who are at home. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you, Katerina. And just let me say that you are doing an incredible work. And if we can carry on our campaign, it's only thanks to organizations like Spolka, like Viasna, of course, like the journalists like Marina. And thanks to their reports, we can help in reporting to the relevant institutions. So I think that the network is the most important thing in order to step up. And thank you to everyone. Thank you to our testimonies today. Thank you so much. We are with you. We are supporting your struggle, and we will continue to do that. And just want to add that the webinar has been recorded, and it will be available on FIDU YouTube channel, as well as on Radio Radicale. So if you want to watch the webinar and or just read the contents of this discussion, and you can send the link of our YouTube channel and the link of Radio Radicale. And I think that we have collected so many important suggestions. Maybe the appeal to write emails, to write letters to the prisoners is one thing that everyone can do. And of course, from our side, and I think also Katerina and the organization Spolka can help with the translation. So please just do what we can do, and I am sure that we can help Belarusian people to have a better future. And I think that the first thing is that you deserve fair election and freedom and democracy. So thank you so much, and maybe to the next webinar for an update.
Grazie mille.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Grazie mille a tutti voi.
Grazie.
Thank you very much. И нашим землякам в Италии великий дякуй, что не забываете родную сторонку, потому что Беларусь, Беларусу, Беларусь. Живе Беларусь, дякуй.
Живе Беларусь.
We would like to thank our Belarusians living abroad, and for the fact that they don't forget about Belarusians, and we like to provide the support for this proverb. Belarus to another Belarus is a real friend, is a real Belarusian.
Thank you so much. Спасибо. Goodbye.
Stay safe and stay connected. Bye.
Exactly.